Yo, what's happening guys, King GBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Go Battle League video. Today I'm going to be showcasing Poliwrath in the Spring Cup. This Pokemon is quite interesting. You would think that in a meta that's dominated by grass type Pokemon, the Poliwrath might not be that great, but having used it and played against it, this Pokemon is very strong in this meta. If you have a look at what the top Pokemon are in the Spring Cup, you've got Ferrothorn, you've got Abomasnow, you have things like Dewgong in this cup as well. Poliwrath just absolutely runs through those Pokemon. Even if you think about things like Tropius, right? Double super effective Icy Winds. Pelipper is very tricky for this team and we will talk about that later. But then you've got things like Empoleon. Even if people are using things like Serperior, Venusaur, you do have a lot of pressure there. And you do see the occasional people using things like Walrein, Celio. Poliwrath is just super neutral. And as you're seeing in this first matchup, we make a very nice catch there. Thank you very much. But we're actually running Scald and Icy Wind. I'm running this with Power Punch, and I think Power Punch is definitely the play in this meta. For any of you PV Poke Andes out there, you'll know that the recommended moveset is Dynamic Punch. I think PuP is a little bit better, because there are certain situations where you just need to farm down something, or you're against like a Tentacruel. You're going to see matches where I was playing against all our bug types in the meta, where having that extra counter damage, counter being such a strong move, really makes a huge difference. Allows you to get off a boosted Icy Wind, and threaten the opponent's shields are of course a lot of damage. Anyway guys, let's hop into the battles. If you do enjoy today's video, please drop a like. I do have to say a big thank you for the support on the Roserade video. That video is done very well. A lot of new faces in there. Thank you everybody. If you're coming back for a second time, or a third time, and you've not yet subscribed, that's right, Andrew, Steven, Jessica, I'm talking to you. Subscribe, hit that like button, and let's hop into the battles. So Abomasnow lead, very negative for Roserade because of the fast move pressure. I go for the catch and Dewgong. This will be a double resisted Weller Ball. Absolutely perfect here. Now, I want to talk about this team a little bit just before we do the commentary. The main problem I found with this team was Pelipper. If you get a Pelipper lead, it's super rough with Roserade. Now, I was trying out this exact same team with Trevenant in the lead, which of course is also weak to Pelipper. However, if you can just land a Seed Bomb, you can pretty much farm it down, and the opponent's forced to go all the way to Hurricane. Whereas Roserade, it's really good for certain situations, you know, with the fire type coverage, right? The poison jabs are just ripping through things, right? It's great. But against that one particular matchup, it's so awkward. I do actually recommend using Trevenant in the lead. If you want to use Poliwrath in this cup, I think a really strong team is Trevenant, Poliwrath, Dewgong. I might actually make a video just sort of showcasing Dewgong and its strengths in this cup, because this Pokemon is really strong. I do highly recommend if you have one built. I mean, I know like 70% of people I was running into in Catch Cup had a newly built Dewgong, so I'm sure most people have this Pokemon. I think it's a very strong Pokemon in this meta, so if you want a better, more balanced team, go for a Trevenant lead. But guys, here we're seeing Power Punch. For Alligator, we build up to the move, so they go for the shield, which is quite funny, and we're going to go straight PuP at this point. And because we're going straight PuP, we don't have to throw a lot of energy, we're getting a lot of damage, these counters are absolutely ripping it to shreds, and we can even just shield this move up. The Abomasnow is going to come back in. They did dump their energy before. There's no need to melt the snowman when you can just punch it. Good games well played to the opponent here. This Weller Ball, of course, not going to take us out. Even if it did, we could just jab it down, and that one extra counter, double boosted, just ripped it to shreds. Good games well played. And that's what I was finding with Poliwrath, like quite a few occasions. Even things like Tentacruel, or otherwise, like they're going to poison jab you, acid spray, just a complete pain in the ass, right? You can just PuP and just get a lot of damage for him. So if you're able to chip it with something, it can be quite good. Now this is a horrible lead. This is a bit of a core breaker for my entire team. Even if I was using Trevenant, this would actually maybe even be worse because they're doing super effective Shadow Claws. The opponent goes for the move immediately. They do show the aerially, so this is so bad. And the opponent actually making a very good play here, goes for a catch. However, I go for the swap into Dewgong at the exact same time, and I end up getting my Dewgong lined up on their Poliwrath. You're going to see here, like Poliwrath is just going to do some work here on my team. Now, the opponent, fortunately for me in this situation, is going for a Scald. Had they been PuP, this could be looking very curtains for me. We do get a last second move, and that is absolutely vital. The fact that they free Scald there, that's absolutely huge for me. If it was Dynamic Punch, if it was PuP, I think I'm in a very tough spot here. Now, I'm going to come in with Poly. I don't necessarily want to shield up, I'm already down a shield. And of course, the opponent banked the move on the Golisopod, so definitely very tricky. The opponent still has 2 shields, and the opponent actually comes into the Ferrothorn. Now this actually gives me a chance. I can start going for PuPs here. I'm going to start ramping up, punching through this thing, and what I look to do is go for a catch on the Roserade. Now we double resist this move, boom, that doesn't do that much damage, and I go for the move immediately. The opponent very cleverly goes for the extra, instead of going for a CMP tile that they do not win. But I think the best play for the opponent there would have been to shield up and get off the move, because basically, yeah, they've got 2 shields now, that's great, but I still have 1, and that's going to make it very difficult for them. They can't really farm me down. Poliwrath has a move stored, and yeah, we basically get to 2 moves on Roserade, 1 move on the Poly, and that's going to be good games well played. So once again, we have the Abominable Snowman, is that how it's pronounced? The Abominable Snowman. We're going to go for another catch in Dewgong. Dewgong out here eating Icy Winds like it's nothing, even though it's a Weather Ball, and the opponent's going to build up once again. It's almost like I'm watching the same match back. This time they do come into the Ferrothorn. The matchup with Ferrothorn is not too positive for Dewgong. It's not so negative that you are allowing them to get a ton of farm, right? They pretty much have to throw the moves like almost straight away. It's straight 4 for Power Whip. It's 5-4, 5-4 for Icy Wind. It takes 3 Icy Winds to KO. It takes 2 of them to KO you. I think if you were to debuff it 3-4 times, you might live 2 Power Whips. You know, if you like say farmed something the whole way down, got off the Icy Winds immediately, maybe you could live 2. But generally speaking, not a very good matchup, but good enough in the sense that you can get off a lot of damage, debuff the opponent, and get a farm down. Now once again, the opponent stored energy. The opponent horny for the snipe here. They're going to snipe this Poliwrath, and we'll see what they have in the back. It is the Pelipper, and this is what we're going to see with this. This is kind of awkward. This is why I did prefer Trevenant. However, this team against my Trevenant team, which is completely wreck it, right? This cup, you know, it kind of is a little bit RPS. It's a free typing cup. It's going to be RPS no matter what. I just let this move go. I have to try to live this move. Unfortunately, I do not. And yeah, this is curtains. As you can see, these wing attacks are just completely destroying Roserade. So if you do happen to see a Pelipper while running this team, you know, good luck to you. I might have beaten it once or twice, but it's just very, very tough. If you see it in the lead against Trevenant, it's good. But if you were to see a Bombasno lead with Pelipper in the back, you might as well just top left. To be completely honest, it's going to be very, very rough to win. Roserade versus Whimsicott. Speaking of RPS, this is absolutely fantastic here. Double super effective moves, and in comes the Dewgong here. Now what I decided to do here is go for 1 PuP basically. I want to get as much energy as possible, and yeah, they're Icy Winding me. Oh, Icy Wind, that's great. We're just going to pop back up again. We're going to be on full attack, right? And the opponent either has to choose, like, am I going to debuff the attack, or actually finally land some damage? We're in a pretty good position here. We can farm this the whole way down, and look how much energy we've got. We're coming out with like an Icy Wind and a half. Almost 2 Icy Winds. They come in with their Poliwrath. I insta-throw Andy here. I'm an insta-throwing Andy. I throw this off immediately. I should have went for PuP, but I guess it doesn't really make that much difference, to be completely honest, because Icy Wind's not going to do that much damage to it, but of course you want the most damage possible, and had I went for PuP first, that would have been slightly better. We are going to do quite a lot of work to this Poly, because these counters are just absolutely ripping it. We've got them down to like 40% health, and because they farmed up so much, I'm going to eat all this energy in Dewgong. We're going to eat the move, we're going to come into our Roserade and start farming it down. And Roserade up energy, or Trevenant up energy in this cup is just absolutely insane. The opponent's staying in here. They definitely could have swapped out, I think. They come into the Whimsicott, and yeah, I mean, like, it's no real benefit for them, obviously, to swap out into this thing. The opponent sees the jab damage. I guess they were kind of hoping, like, debuffed, that might help them, but yeah, Whimsicott. Honestly, I don't know what it's doing in this cup here. Good game still played. Roserade coming into Tentacruel. Now, Tentacruel, once again, this is where Trevenant is a little bit better. We swap, they swap, but they come into the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is not an answer to Poly. The opponent throws very, very quickly, and I decide, okay, they're probably going for Mirror Shot. The opponent debuffs my attack, however, not for long. We're going to start ramping up here. The opponent knowing that Poliwrath can do work here. Even though this is a grass against the water, this is a positive matchup for Poly. I'm going to shield once, and look to basically farm this the whole way down. Easy shield on the Power Whip. Take it the whole way down. We come out with 2 Icy Winds. Our attack has not been debuffed, and we're going to see what the opponent wants to do. I'm going to ramp up here because it is Tentacruel. I want to just ramp up as much as possible, get for as much damage as I can, and yeah, basically look to Icy Wind, debuff, start countering it. And you guys are going to see, like, these counters are going to start adding up. Their poison jabs are not adding up as much, and we do bank a little bit of energy and come into Dewgong here. This was a misplay. I should have came into the Roserade, and I'm sort of forced to shield this. This was definitely a misplay. Definitely a misclick. I was streaming these battles. I 100% should have come into Roserade in this situation. I decided I want to get an extra farm if possible, and I think my only play here is just to basically commit to the farm down, which, depending on the IVs, may not be possible. I think I actually might be getting a breakpoint on the Trevenant, because that's done an absolute ton of damage. We're going to go for an immediate throw here, just get this damage off. The opponent actually lets it go, calling the Icy Wind, and now we can come in with Poly, start going for PuPs, and that's going to be game over. It's a little bit fortunate there. I definitely should have went into Roserade, but it was just kind of like a reaction swap. I should have come into Rose, went for a Weather Ball immediately, got the shield off the opponent, or I could have even stayed in to get off an Icy Wind. That would have been fine as well. Now Dewgong, not a great lead for Roserade. Once again, you can stand and throw a Seed Bomb with the Trevenant if you want to in that matchup. The moves do a little bit less, and yeah, the opponent goes for Drill Run. Now I think what I decided to do here, because I've already went for some Poison Jab damage, I'm going to go for an Icy Wind first here, lower their Drill Run damage. That basically puts us on roughly even health, but my moves are going to be doing more than theirs. So I'm thinking, because they're hidden energy, I do want to lower the damage of these Drill Runs a little bit. And at this point, we're going to commit to the damage, right? We don't want to go for crazy amounts of Icy Winds. That one Icy Wind should maybe allow us to deliver these next 2, which is pretty vital here. As you can see, this next one, I believe, does a little bit less than half of what we've got left. They go for an Icy Wind. The opponent definitely misplaying in that situation. if you're going to go for an Icy Wind, go for it at the beginning. But, you know, in hindsight and after playing this out a few times, I think overall, the debuff may not be worth it. In that particular damage, I'd already done some fast move pressure to them, and they were heading energy, so I wanted to basically absorb the energy a little bit better. We come into Trevenant, we go for CMP tie, Roserade beats Trevenant at CMP, and the opponent actually lives the move on 1 HP. That's kind of unfortunate. They do go for Seed Bombs, that's perfectly fine. And yeah, we've got the Trevenant out of the way, we've got a Poliwrath in the back with 2 shields. I don't see any way this could possibly go wrong at this point. Icy Wind, that'll take us out. Poliwrath time, we're going to punch this the whole way down, and we'll see what the opponent wants to come into. Of course, they come into a Tropius, and even though this is a flyer against a fighter, Icy Wind is just super threatening, and that's a good game. Trevenant lead, if you're playing this line with Trevenant, I like going for a Seed Bomb and a farm down. The opponent actually catches it on the overfarm, so very, very nice play by the opponent. Usually people will go for that move immediately, but of course because the opponent probably knows that this is going to be like a decently high level battle, they don't go for the catch immediately, they go for the catch when they think I'll throw, which of course is not going to be immediately. I go for the big move, get the shield off the opponent, and I'm actually going to respect this first move off Jellicent. I'm going to go for probably 1 debuff in this matchup here, because 1 drill run in this situation does not KO. So sometimes, you know, when you're going for debuffs, you need to know why you're going for them. You don't just spam debuffs for absolutely no reason with Whiscash, right? I know I can live 2 Shadow Balls now, and that's a good reason to go for a debuff. And also, I can overfarm quite a lot, come out with some energy and threaten the Trevenant. The opponent goes for Shadow Ball, we let it go, and the opponent goes for the snipe with Trevenant. Quite a decent play by the opponent, but I've got so much energy here that I can guarantee to basically take this Trevenant out. I can basically look to debuff whatever's in the back, right? So this should be decently fine for me. I'm down a shield, but we do have a lot of Pokemon left. They come into the Penguin, and guys, it is Poliwrath time. So 1 drill peck from Penguin, I believe does about 60% of the poly. We're going to go straight for PuPs, and we're going to start absolutely running through this Penguin. This does, yeah, about 60%. We're going to go for PuP, and because we go for PuP here, I believe that allows us to actually take this out before they can take us out. Now they come into the Jelly here, I'm going to go for another PuP, basically trying to farm this the whole way down, and just ramping up my damage a little bit extra. Do they get to the move? They do get to the move, unfortunately, but Empoleon is relatively dry, and if we can just get an energy lead with Roserade, we should be chilling here. We'll get this 1 poison jab through, which of course will take out the Jellicent at this range, and we're going to be 4 off the move. I believe the opponent was overfarmed by 1, so we do outpace here. This Weather Ball will take it out, of course, joint Steel typing, and yeah, good games well played. Empoleon is in an even shielding situation. It normally takes 13 counters to KO an Empoleon with a Poliwrath, so that means they normally can get off 2 drill picks in a normal matchup. In the 1-to-1 shield, the opponent can get off 2 moves typically, but if you're using PuP, I think it takes like 4 counters afterwards to KO or something like that. They don't get to 2 moves, and that is one benefit of having that. Now, hopping into this matchup here, I do quite like this matchup for Dewgong. As you can see, drill picks are not really doing that much. We do try our best to stick to good timing here. The opponent does go for a catch into Golisopod. And once again, this is why I like Dewgong so much in this meta. There's just nothing that really feels horrible for it. Yeah, sure, the opponent resists every single move I can throw here, but we're just super bulky. That Aurelius is not really doing a lot of damage, and unfortunately the opponent is on Aurelius. I think the typical moveset for this is Aurelius and X Scissor in this cup. That's what I've seen mostly so far. So what I decided to do here is, okay, we're going to have to let this go. We could get off another move, we're going to come into Poly, and we're just going to start punching it. The opponent does get off a debuffed Aurelius, and I'm hoping that I can just counter this down in 5. I don't really want to take another move, and we do thankfully get the perfect counter down here. So we should hopefully be in a fine position. As mentioned before, you know, Poly's energy just goes everywhere. The opponent goes for an interesting, like, swap or something. I'm not sure what that was all about. And what I'm going to do straight away, go straight for the PuP, right? Oh, actually, I CMP in the Icy Wind, so that was a good play by the opponent. I was trying to go for the PuP, but landing that Icy Wind should prevent them from getting to a move. We can basically look to permanently debuff the Tropius, and yeah, that should be basically curtains. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is I've noticed that Zionic and both Jonkus have uploaded a video with this team today. Tropius in the lead, with, I think, Poly and Dewgong in the back. I think if you get that team, you basically just have to sacrifice your Roserade. You should be able to get to 2 Fire Weather Balls, and I believe you can outfarm the Tropius. In the situation here, we swap straight out, and yeah, here comes the Poly. So this actually might be this team that we're talking about. This team is definitely very strong, and because 2 very popular content creators have showcased it, you're most likely going to see it quite a lot. Dewgong forcing the Poliwrath to throw energy here is perfect. That puts them into like a decently good farm down range for my own Poly, or for my Roserade. We'll see what I decide to do here. I come into the Roserade here, trying to, yeah, CMP the move. That's perfect. That means I can get rid of them. If it is Tropius, we can farm it down. If it is Dewgong, we can look to swap into Poly. And yeah, at this point, guys, getting this much of an energy lead puts us in an amazing position, right? You're going to see this team quite a lot. And, you know, this team with Roserade, I think, actually performs slightly better into this, as opposed to the Trevenant team, which, like I said, performed very well for me, and I'm going to showcase that team tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to obviously shield up this move. This is the hardest hitting move left in the game, and because we've ramped our attack up, this Dewgong has got absolutely no chance. This sea lion's getting thrown back in the sea, and Eyeball Paul is just going to take him out. By the way, let me know if you understand that reference. In this one, we have Roserade versus Roserade. The opponent's on Bullet Seed here, so I go for 4 Poison Jabs, which is 8 turns. It takes them 9 turns, which is 3 Bullet Seeds to get to their move. I go for 4, do a slight pause, and then go into Dewgong. In that situation right there, the opponent's almost always instant for the move, because if they don't, we'll basically outpace them, and they're going to have to throw on either alignment or let me get to the move first. So typically they throw that move straight away. The opponent actually lets that go. We take out... Okay, good games, well played. That's the power of Dewgong right there. You can take out the lanterns with pretty much 2 drill runs, especially if the opponent's using pretty bad IVs. You can more or less just straight take them out with the Ice Shard damage. Now we're seeing Pelipper lead. I'm going to go straight into Dewgong here, and the opponent comes into a Ferrothorn. This is not great. The opponent can go for Power Whip. As I mentioned before, there's no real benefit in shielding these moves here. We need to debuff it like probably 3-4 times before we can survive 2 Power Whips, so definitely not worth it here. We just want to get off as much damage as possible here. The opponent, unfortunately, is going for a huge overfarm, which makes this a little bit worse for me. But hopefully if I can farm this the whole way down with something, I can come out with energy, look to threaten the Pelipper, and hopefully take care of it here. But like I said, Pelipper is just so rough for this team in general. We're going to get off a Fireweller Ball. Of course, this is a resisted move, but I'm just trying to chip it as much as possible. Even resisted damage against a Pokemon like this can be very valuable. I go straight for the PuP, thinking, okay, the opponent is of course going to let a PuP go. They go for Weather Ball, which is good. And hopefully, like with the ramped up damage, I can start beating this Pelipper down. Yeah, the opponent gets out of here, and they come into their own Roserade. I'm going to go for an Icy Wind, but this is just kind of game over for me, unfortunately. There's not really a win con in this match. If you do happen to see a team like this, it's going to be super hard to overcome with this team. And again, you know, that's just the type of cup this is. It's going to be very hard to overcome certain lines. This is definitely one of the very tricky ones. I can maybe like try to commit to a farm down, but the opponent actually built up to 2 moves. They're on 10 Poison Jabs here, so that's curtains for me. Good games. And hopping into the next one, we have a Trevenant. Once again, I'm not an insta-ring Andy. We're going to overfarm, and we're going to get off the Leaf Storm. I've never seen them no-shield this move, so do what you will with that information. It's a very risky bait, but, you know, either way, opponents usually go for the catch in 5. They usually shield that move, and they always go for Acid Spray in this situation as well. I think the best way they can go about this is go for 1 Acid Spray, and then go for the Scald straight after, just to get the raw damage through. Maybe it is better to go for Acid Spray in this situation here, because they can basically jab me down very low. What I've decided to do in this matchup here, because they're not going to get to a move for a while, is allow the opponent to jab me down, right? I don't want to give the Trevenant a bunch of farm. I'm not going to make another move anyway. I'm only getting off 1 Ice Shard, so that's perfectly fine for me here. Now, the opponent banked energy. They're most likely going to go for Seed Bomb Bait here. And at this point, the opponent comes into a Celio. Celio, quite an interesting Pokemon that's got buffed this season. And you're going to see here that Celio kind of puts in work the Shadow at least anyway. We're going to go straight for PuP. We're going to ramp up our damage. We're going to tank both of these moves. And we're going to look to basically farm it the whole way down. This is going to put the Trevenant in a position where they're basically forced to shield the Icy Wind. I think the opponent actually stopped attacking there, probably looking to get extra farm in the Trev. Probably a decent play there. But I think either way, this is curtains for them. We're going to debuff the opponent, and yeah, they just let it go. They're like, what am I playing this match out for? I've got no real win cons here. Gonna get outpaced. I've still got a shield, of course. They're debuffed, so they can't farm me down, and we get an absolutely horrible lead. We do 1 and swap into Dewgong, which is like my only quote-unquote answer for this Pokemon. Bruxish is definitely a problem for this team. We bring in Dewgong, and the opponent brings in... What did they bring in there? I didn't quite see that. We're going for the debuff anyway. Oh, it's Quackwavel. The opponent calls it. Very nice call by the opponent. And I'm expecting the opponent just to actually YOLO the move here. I am hoping that if I can farm this down with Roserade, that could be a decent position to be in, or even farm it down with Poly. We're going to come in with Roserade, try to farm this thing the whole way down. They're doing super effective wing attacks, and yeah, I'm basically forced to shield up the Aurelius. I was expecting this to be like a Poliwrath in the back, and right here, I'm going to go straight for the Fireweller Ball. Bruxish is kind of glassy, and I'm just hoping that Poly can deal with this thing. We're going to go straight for Pops, and try to punch through this stupid little fish on the screen. Bruxish is just such a pain to deal with. Like I said, I'm going to ramp up my attack, but they're just in such a dominant position. I need to get them into a range where I can at least poison jab them down. We get off another PuP, and the opponent comes into their own Roserade. The opponent has me in complete shambles here, and I think I just top left. I'm like, yep, that is game over for me, buddy. That fish completely destroyed my team, and we're going to hop into the next one. Roserade versus Gliscopod, okay? Quite an interesting lead. As you guys seen before, they can definitely tank the Weather Ball. We cannot tank the Aurelius. So kind of an awkward matchup. Most likely we will try to shield up this first move, look to go for a catch, and see what the opponent wants to do. X-Scissor are coming in, so they're not on Aurelius, which is quite interesting. They must be on Liquidation. I go for the catch on the X-Scissor. I could have called it in Poly, which would have been resisted, but I do prefer safe swapping the Dewgong here. The opponent comes into a Fairthorn, and it's definitely good that I saved some energy. The opponent goes straight for a Power Whip, and I'm super grateful for this. Get me down very low quickly, and then we'll go for the Icy Wind, hopefully prevent the opponent from getting extra farm. I perhaps could have done one extra Ice Shard, which maybe would have given the opponent one less Bullet Seed. I think that's something to keep in mind. We're going to go for the Overfarm here. The opponent insta-throws the Power Whip. I'm perfectly fine with this. We're going to go for a 1 and throw again for good timing, and we'll see what the opponent wants to do. If they shield it, it's Poliwrath time, and we'll see what the opponent wants to come into. They come into this thing. I'm going to try my best to get off this move. This little chip could be very, very valuable. This thing's going to Bubble Beam me, Bug Buzz me into oblivion. And as you can see, everybody resists the move here, resists the moves here. I'm going to go ahead, get counters off, get power punches off, look to try and ramp up through this thing. The Fairthorn is basically dry, so we don't have to worry about it at this point. But we can get to power punches before they can get to their moves. I build up to the potential Scald, trying to threaten some heavy damage here, and the opponent no shields, which is, pretty obvious, right? The opponent could go for a Bug Buzz here, but I decide, yeah, it's resisted, we're going to let it go. It does actually do quite a decent amount of damage. Once again, building up to the move, seeing what the opponent wants to do. They do sort of have to start shielding moves at this point. This is getting super close. The opponent catches the move on Galissapod. This is getting very, very rough for me here. The opponent actually shields the Galissapod. It's a simul KO. We're going to come in with Roserade, and we do just about farm it down in time. Good games. But that is it for today's video. We finished on a free 2. I'm going to showcase another team tomorrow with Poliwrath, and it just went completely off. I went 18 and 7, so stay tuned. Subscribe, drop a like in the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to join our Discord in the description down below. Thank you everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you tomorrow for a brand new video.